Welcome to our first online workshop. I'm Karen Creighton and this is Awaken Your Inner Herbalist, workshop number 1. Today we are going through from culinary to medicinal. So we're using herbs and common foodstuffs to help our health. So today we're going to go over a few of the common foods that we have in our pantry or cupboard or fridge, and then we're going to go and make a super tonic. The super tonic is amazing, and you will have got in your feed with this, you would have got a list of ingredients, and if you're going to join me, then pause this and get everything together, and then we'll get going. Okay, so first of all though, I wanted to go through what a herbalist is, because everyone perceives a herbalist very much like, say, a medical doctor, because let's face it, we have to study for years to learn the chemical constituents of each herb, to find out what herb treats what. But in reality, we've all been herbalists throughout evolution. So I just want to take you back to our caveman eras, where the men traditionally were the hunters. They went out and they caught whatever protein source or animals or fish or whatever they decided to hunt, depending on where they were. And the women would go out and gather. We would gather roots and seeds and berries and leaves and whatever we found that we would use as our food source. Now, not only did we discover over the years what was food, we also discovered what would help when we were feeling under the weather or when we'd been injured. So for example, if the man of the cave came back and was injured, we learned how to treat that so that we didn't get infections that were life-threatening, because an infection back then would have been very life-threatening. No antibiotics available then. Or did we? We in actual fact have got a huge arsenal of ingredients that we can use to help heal ourselves. This is how we evolved through until roughly 1450. And women had garnered a huge amount of knowledge of how to help. And not only did women just have that knowledge, but there were other women within the community who would have gained more knowledge. So they were the sort of the healers of the community, and they had huge advanced knowledge. And it was from the 1450s where those women were targeted as witches, or whatever you care to call it. And so basically a lot of that knowledge got not just lost, but it went underground. And so it's very exciting really when you think about it. We have that knowledge. We haven't lost it. It hasn't gone, but it went from our communities, and it went from basically our history, because then from that time until 1750, women were hunted down and basically those women were wiped out. But what happened from then onwards is drugs started to come into fruition, and they really took a hold in the early 20th century. And that's when antibiotics were discovered and all of those other things. And I'm not saying they're not good, but they had their place. But what they did do is we started to lose the knowledge. And through that time, of course, was the Industrial Revolution, where communities moved to live. So we moved into the cities, and getting plant-based material wasn't so easy. And so we had to depend on other people bringing stuff into the place. And so everything started to get watered down. What we're finding now, though, is that we are actually really wanting this knowledge. And this is what I'm trying to impart to you, that you can be your own healer. You can be your own herbalist. And so that's what Awaken the Inner Herbalist is all about. Now, it's not just about herbs, as you're going to find out. It's about food. It's about everything we surround ourselves with. So that leads me nicely on to the foods we're going to be covering today. So the foods we're going to be covering first are very common and very, very highly medicinal. So first, I'm going to go with ginger. Now, all of this information is written in the online book that you got with this email. So you have ginger root. Ginger root is magnificent. It smells beautiful, it tastes beautiful. It also helps with a myriad of different things. It can help prevent blood clotting. It can help with pain. It helps with oxidative stress. It helps with heart, coughs and colds, prevention as well as treatment. That in a little root, isn't that amazing? It really helps with blood sugars as well and digestion. So the humble ginger. I just love ginger, it smells lovely. And just a tip, if you're going to cook with it, put your root in smaller pieces like that and freeze it. And then when you come to grate it, it doesn't get all stringy. It's so much easier to use. So there's a tip about ginger. Then we're going to go into now onions of all varieties. Onions brown, onions red, shallots, all of those have the same chemical constituents. And these chemical constituents do very similar to ginger, but they have other added benefits. It's got sulfur in it, and the sulfur helps with detoxification. And there's lots of ways you can use onion. So we're going to be using onion today in our recipe, but you can also use it in water. So you can apply it to your skin. And how do you do that? So basically, you chop it roughly, leaving the skin on, apart from the loose bits like these. And then you chop it roughly, pour boiling water over it, simmer for a few minutes, leave to cool, strain, and then you have onion water. Now, onion water can be applied to the skin, and it's really, really good to help soothe. But also what you can do is if you've got a cough or a cold, you can make an onion poultice, and you just chop it roughly, put it in some oil and apply to the chest or the bottoms of the feet. So if you look at the soles of the feet, say they're the toe, my fingers are the toes, this area here, the sort of just underneath the toes is your lungs, and you can apply onions to the soles of your feet. And if you make a mush of it with some olive oil, apply, bandage up with some muslin or just a piece of Glad wrap or something like that to keep the warmth in, and you can really feel it helps to really release phlegm. So this can really help to fight cancer, help with heart disease, blood sugars again, bone health, inflammation, and all of those wonderful antioxidants that are packed in there. You probably will have heard of garlic and how good it is for, very similar again to the other two, but it's also wonderful for helping to fight fungal infections, bacterial infections, and all of those sorts of things. So garlic, it again has sulfur, but it also has allicin. Now, allicin is the chemical component that makes it so unique. When you use garlic, use it in a recipe last, if you're making a recipe for a tonic, for example, because as soon as you cut it, the allicin starts being released into the air. And what we want to do, if we wanted to make, say, for example, a garlic oil, is you just chop it roughly, very quickly, put the olive oil in, and you could put it in a blender if you wanted to make it sort of like a smooth paste, but keep it in the olive oil. That way the air can't get to it. That way you get the most potent remedy from it. So we go into oil, olive oil, with garlic, much like the onion. you can apply it to the skin. Now, do not put a clove of garlic directly onto your skin, it will burn. So just remember, cloves of garlic should have some oil applied to the skin first, or put in oil. When I make garlic oil, it's really a fun thing to do because it smells so divine. You can use it for cooking as well as for medicinal purposes. So when you put garlic into olive oil, you leave it to warm up. So you can put it in an airing cupboard. If you have a nice sunny day, you can put it on your windowsill and let the heat gradually extract the chemical components into itself. So what we're doing then is the chemical components of the herb, this point garlic, is going into a liquid. And so then it's a very potent liquid, and often the garlic isn't worth eating after it's been in there for a period of time. So that's garlic. Now, I've got horseradish in your list of herbs that's in your booklet, and unfortunately where we live it's very hard to grow horseradish, but I had to include it because it is so important in our health regime. Now, you can get minced horseradish, but make sure when you buy it, it doesn't have any added extras into it. Now, horseradish, it can help release mucus. So, you know, when you get a really heavy cold, when you get sinusitis, when you get a really bad cough, that is mucus. And so we're trying to get that out. Mucus is actually trying to protect us because it's actually where all the bacteria and everything are hiding. It's trying to stop it from going into our bloodstream. So with horseradish, it has a huge benefit for immunity, prevention of cancer. It is also believed, now there's no proof of this, that it can actually help raise your metabolic rate. We've got no proof of it, but you sort of think about wasabi, as in the Japanese, and if they're eating their traditional diet, they don't get terribly fat. So it might be worth having a look at. And it's probably research will be coming out as we go through. So that horseradish, now instead of horseradish, I'm going to be using turmeric root. Now turmeric root, you'll have heard about turmeric, so I'm not going to wax lyrical about turmeric and how wonderful an antioxidant is, anti-inflammatory and all that sort of stuff, but I'm using that in our recipe. So if you don't have access to horseradish, then turmeric's going to be your go-to. Then I've got cayenne pepper. Now cayenne pepper is amazing. I've seen it firsthand, and also one of my teachers, Richard Schultz from the United States, he has actually cured himself of a genetic heart defect. He tells the most amazing story. His nickname is in effect Cayenne, and the thing is the reason he's nicknamed Cayenne is because he used to have cayenne all around his beard. Now his story is one that is actually really interesting, because as a 18-year-old he was diagnosed with this heart defect, and he was due to have an operation of having his valves and everything all stripped and new valves put in, and he was in the hospital ready to go, and the guy who was in the bed next to him was a few years older, but he was going in for the same operation and he never came out. So Richard decided this wasn't a risk worth taking and thought he would go and find another way. He found Dr. Christopher. Now, Dr. Christopher is a renowned medical herbalist in the United States, and he's the forefront of the cayenne revolution, really, within us herbalists. As herbalists, we use cayenne pepper to enhance everything else we put together. So if you have a herbal remedy and you add cayenne pepper to it, or if you're taking a nutrient or anything else and you add cayenne pepper to that mix, it enhances. So why not use it? If you can't handle the heat of cayenne, why not invest in some cayenne pepper capsules? Now you can get ones called Capsy Cool, and they're by Nature's Way, and they are actually buffered. So when they do get digested, you don't get that sort of warm feeling, which is what you can do when you have hot food. But with Capsicol, it sort of stops that. I personally love the effect of cayenne pepper, and so consequently we have cayenne quite a bit in our food and also in our remedies. And today in our super tonic, we are adding chili. I'm just going to add one, but you can add as many or as little as you like. And so chilies are amazing for circulation. Metabolic syndrome can help raise the metabolism, similar to what it's believed horseradish can. And so why not? It can really help with chilblains. One of my clients who lived in Australia, and I would never have thought anyone in Australia would have suffered from chilblains. Now, she was living in Queensland, so she had really bad circulation. So what I got her to do was to sprinkle some cayenne pepper into her shoes, and she said it was a miracle cure. She didn't have any problems with chilblains after she learned about that one. It was only in her feet. She didn't have it in her hands, she just had it in her feet. And so it can be absolutely miraculous. So never underestimate the value of these amazing foods that we have. They are absolutely phenomenal. So that is the list of ingredients that's going to go into our super tonic. Plus one, apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar is wonderful for helping with digestion. It also helps bring your body out of acidosis into alkalinity. So what that basically means, if you've got more of an acid system, then this apple cider vinegar can help bring down the acidity. And it's a wonderful, obviously, salad dressing, but it's great as a tool to help your body. Always, when you buy your apple cider vinegar, make sure it is cloudy, not clear. The clear ones are not live, and so why would you eat it? It's been mucked about with too much. So let's get on and make super tonic. Now, super tonic is called super tonic because it's actually supercharged with the amazing ingredients I've just told you about. When you put them all together, you can use it as a salad dressing. Bear in mind that it's strong. So you could probably do 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar with, 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, mix up apple cider vinegar with the super tonic, and then add in 4 or 5 plain apple cider vinegar, so it's not too strong. However, if you have a cough or a cold, sore throat, or again, sort of any lung congestion, you can use the super tonic as your medicine. And what you do with it is you gargle with it for as long as you like, and then swallow. It'll clear the sinuses, especially if you're using horseradish. It's just an amazing immune boost too. So if you wanted to use it on a daily basis, then you can do that too. So all you need is 1 jar. I like to use the Kilner jars because they have a good seal. But you can use any jam jar. You can use a jar like this one with a lid. Making sure, again, it's got a good seal because you don't want it all over the place. All you need to do with the ingredients is take off the rough areas, cut off the end, and then chop roughly, leaving the peels on, which is what makes it so easy. So I'm cutting them into sort of sizes like this. So this jar should easily take 1 onion and a whole head of garlic. So just put the, 1 head of garlic. We just do what we did with the onion, is we chop the end off, chop that up, and then I'm going to chop it in half, and then it goes in. It's pretty tough at the bottom end though. So what I'll do there is, what I'm doing is I'm just breaking it off of the the tough root because my knife won't go through it. Best laid plans, eh? Done. Okay. And then I just basically cut them in half and pop them straight in on top. Ginger, roughly the same amount of ginger as there is onion and garlic. Again, just roughly sliced with the skin on. Make sure you wash it, of course. So that's the size we're looking at, and just pop them in. I'm doing this quite quickly because I want you to see how quick making your own remedies actually is. So now you would be, oh, it's made my eyes water. Now you'd be doing your horseradish. Horseradish would be making my eyes stream, and so I'm sure yours would too. But now I'm just going to chop the turmeric into smaller bits. This is quite small bits of turmeric, so we've got a lovely lady who grows these locally. And so that's the chopping mainly. And now I'm just going to cut the chilli, of course keeping the pips in. We want the heat in there. So that's all your ingredients. Now you can of course pack this right to the rafters because you want it packed in, because you want all of that wonderful goodness in. And then we're just going to cover the ingredients with apple cider vinegar. Make sure it's secure, and then you just give it a wee shake. And that is your super tonic. Now what you do with that is you just leave it, give it a shake every day if you can, and the longer you leave it, the more it becomes potent. I recommend leaving this for 4 to 6 weeks, but it can be used after 10 days. So just pop away somewhere. Now this is one I did earlier. As you can see, it had turmeric in, so you can see the lovely yellow colour. So that is our wonderful super tonic. Now, not always are you going to be able to A, wait the 4 to 6 weeks, and B, have, like I said, horseradish or any of the other ingredients. So I've got a cheats way of making super tonic. And here it is. 1 jar. Powdered. This is organic, they're organic powders. And so we're going to do a teaspoon of each of these powders. So 1 teaspoon of garlic. 1 teaspoon of onion. This is fun. I really enjoy doing this. 1 teaspoon of ginger. Now this is going to be quite a fiery one. So I'm going to put a teaspoon of both the wasabi and the cayenne pepper. Now if you're doing this for a child, you might want to reduce the amount of cayenne pepper, but if you're really wanting to make this a potent blend, then why not ramp up the volume. So that's our 5 ingredients, and of course we need our apple cider vinegar, oh, just enough. Let me give it a wee shake. So as you can see, it's all dissolved, and even if there's a few lumps in there, it'll be fine. You just give it a shake every now and then, and tomorrow that will be ready to eat. And here's one prepared earlier. I put it in a jar, in a bottle, so it's easier to pour. And it just, and always when you make something like this, make sure you put what it is for a start, because otherwise you might look at it and go, oh, I wonder what I've made there. I've done that several times. And put the date on it, because that way you know exactly when you've made it. And so if you make a couple of batches, for example, you'll always use the oldest one first. This won't go off, by the way. If you put it in the fridge once it's made, it won't go off. It'll stay in the fridge for a long time. And it doesn't lose its potency either. So that is super tonic. Super tonic is basically super. So I hope you enjoy that, because it really can make a big difference to you and your family's health. And it's always good to have on standby. Right, now we're going to go into a few other herbs that you probably use quite commonly. And so the first one, rosemary. Rosemary is the most durable of herbs. It's very potent, it smells, I wish I had smell-o-vision, because it smells, and if you go past the bush and you sort of, it's a bit like lavender, you know, and you can't resist spreading it and whiffing it. And when you do that, your brain just gets a surge of energy, and that's what it's for. You use rosemary a lot for increasing the circulation in the brain. It's got a lot of research being done now for dementia and Alzheimer's, and it's also a wonderful digestive herb. And the great thing about a lot of these herbs is they've evolved for us using to aid our digestion. So you'll notice it's used a lot in lamb. So we add rosemary to lamb to help us digest the fat from the lamb. So it's really useful. In your book, there's a rosemary and basil pesto. I hope you enjoy it. It's a really lovely recipe. The thing about rosemary is they can be a little bit tough. So when you're making your pesto, make sure you blend it for a longer period of time than you normally would. So that is rosemary. Rosemary can help with so many things. Again, it has antibacterial and anti-inflammatory effects. And so you're just going to really learn that these can really help. So I have seen differences with this with clients who have had dementia and also brain injury. So it's a thing I add in a lot with, and get them to add it into tea and stuff like that. So lovely rosemary. If you're lucky enough to have a big bush in your garden, why not just bring a whole bush in and hang it like this, and it'll dry in your house, and then you can just take some off when you need to. Now, next we have cardamom. I don't know how often you use cardamom, but I think maybe once you learn how wonderful this is, you might want to do it more often. So I use cardamom normally for cooking when I'm making curry and stuff like that, because that's how it's commonly been used. But now we have the knowledge that this can really help with immunity, anti-inflammatory, digestive, and help with stress. So it helps with cortisols. How I use it is, apart from making curry, is I make a tea called Ayurvedic anti-stress tea. And in there is cardamom, licorice, cinnamon, orange peel, and there's another one, fennel. And those together make the most delicious tea that we serve here in our shop, and it just goes amazingly well. It's our best seller. And also, when I make the tea, I make jelly from it. Now you may wonder why I make jelly from it. I make jelly from beef bone gelatin. Beef bone gelatin is incredibly beneficial. Now we'll go over that in another time. But I make jellies, I make chewy jellies, and it's just delicious. So you can really play about with these spices. They're designed to get your imagination really going. And one of the other ingredients that's in that tea is cinnamon. Now cinnamon is amazing. It's wonderful, as I said, taste and helps with everything, but it also helps with blood sugars. Now, blood sugars are a vital one because we're having an epidemic of diabetes and metabolic syndrome, so weight gain. Metabolic syndrome is a weight gain thing. And cinnamon can really, really help with your blood sugar levels, but also can help you stop craving sugars. So if you make cinnamon tea, so maybe cinnamon with a little bit of cardamom or some lemon juice, and ginger, it's really lovely, warming, but it also can help curb cravings. That's got to be a good thing, hasn't it? So that's basically it for today. Oh, the other herb I mustn't forget to mention is basil. Basil, wonderful in pestos, fantastic with pasta sauces and all of that sort of stuff. But did you know it has adaptogenic abilities? Now, what's adaptogenic? Adaptogenic are herbs, you've probably heard of them, ashwagandhas, rhamanias, rhodiola. They are what we call adaptogenic herbs. And what they do is they help our bodies cope with stress, so it can give us a little bit of energy, but also what they do is help heal the adrenal cortex. So the adrenal cortex is where our stress hormones are created, and when we're under constant stress, they take quite a battering. And if you're like me, have had chronic fatigue, then your adrenals are your weakest gland, and they're the ones we really need to nurture. So that's where adaptogenic herbs come in, and that is where basil comes in. Just think, that lovely fragrant herb gives us relief from stress. Is it any wonder that the Mediterranean diet is so good for us? That's something to think about. Well, that's it for today, but our next workshop is going to be about using herbs from our own backyard. Now, I don't necessarily mean your garden. It could be in the fields around you, or the hedgerows, or just by the road actually. So next time we're going to go over what those are and how you can use them, and we're also going to make another remedy. And so I would like to thank you very much for joining this community, and I'd also like to thank you for watching this all the way through. I wish you lots of love. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.